March 1st, 2025. Guys, quick video. Got some concerns on what may be about to happen on our southern border. You've heard that Pete Hegseth and Trump and everyone saying you're going to have to stop the cartels, you're going to have to stop the migrants, and you're going to have to stop the fentanyl and the other drugs that are coming across. He says, or the U.S. military will strike the cartels. He made this phone call yesterday on the 31st. And, of course, Mexico threw a fit. Now, we're watching things all around the world. We saw what happened to Z-Man, and he actually got kicked out of the White House. They told him to leave. You're not even going to get the food we cooked for you, and they gave it to the White House staff. And he flew to Europe, or he flew back to England, and then all the European leaders got together and cried for him and come up with the same statement, guys. It was verbatim. Defend, don't give up. It was all, it was verbatim. Someone, I don't know if it was Soros or whoever was running Europe, guys, was sending out a message, and they did not have enough sense to even change the verbiage in the nation's comments on X, guys. It was the same thing. We're all for Zelensky, blah, blah, blah. And what I think, and it may be exactly what happened, was they set Zelensky up. They knew that he was going to come over here and say, I don't want peace. I want the money to try to beat Russia, which is an endless, it's like a hole that money goes in. And in this case, bloods and soul. But that's all they wanted. They didn't want peace. And as soon as Trump realized that, they kicked him out. Now, Hegseth, let's come back to the southern border, because so much attention since the crisis has slowed down as far as the invasion part of it. The attention has turned elsewhere, but we may be making a mistake. We've heard for years about Chinese soldiers and other soldiers, different groups over in Mexico building camps. We know that a lot of their money comes from drugs. It comes from human trafficking. A lot of that money drops into the demons' hands on this side of the border. So it's a big deal. This is a big deal. Will it cause a battle? Will it cause another Remember the Alamo situation on the southern border? Will it bring the fight right to this nation? It very well could. Let's look at it just a little more. It says Donald J. Trump is moving decisively on a wide array of fronts, both in domestic and foreign policies, and sometimes these two categories overlap. Now, what we've seen is the last few days, if you're paying attention to the conservative news, a lot of cartel leaders have been extradited over into the U.S. That's a good thing. I don't know how far up the chain these guys go, but I think that Mexico's political leadership is as corrupt as the Bidens were. So all of you you know what the Bidens did. We don't have to rehash that nonsense. And so Mexico's political situation is tied into illegal activity. They have a great nation. You could have the best tourism if it was safe to go there, which I never will under current conditions. If it was safe to go there, they could make as much money off tourism. But now more and more people are saying, no, thank you. We're reading about the deaths and the cartels and the people getting their heads cut off and all that. It's nonsense, right? But it says Trump's team will not operate in the old expected fashion, but is alerting the neighboring authorities of their full intention of acting forcefully unless they are up to the game and tackle the issue. A report arose that in late January, a mere 7 days after his confirmation as Defense Secretary, Hegseth warned Mexican officials that the U.S. military was ready to take unilateral action against the country's drug cartels. Called him again yesterday. The only way for Mexico to prevent this, he said, is by working harder to stem the flow of fentanyl and migrants into the U.S. Now, the migrant situation is pretty much in control. And I saw where now the Army is sending more and more troops to the U.S. border. And the Democrats were whining about, why are you doing that when you've already kind of shut down the caravans and all just by simply them knowing that they're going to be sent back. But they're sending more troops. Why? That's very concerning for the Democrats, because how many Dems have taken money through the California borders? How many billions and trillions of dollars have they taken to allow that to happen? The fentanyl trafficking, all of that. So it's a big clash for Mexico, because they put themselves in a situation where they're dependent on evil activity. They're saying Mexican officials on the call were shocked and angered by Hexeth's comments and were left with the impression that he was suggesting U.S. military strikes could take place south of the border, according to the outlet. Well, where else were they going to take place? On our side of the border, Mexico? Think about that. Think about it. What you're saying doesn't make sense. Yes, it's going to come to your side of the border if you don't stop it. And you're going to have to stop it. In Texas this week, in the last few days, 2 traffic stops, $500,000 in cash, and a lot of fentanyl. 2 different stops. So even though you've got the migrant situation, as far as the caravans coming over, 118-wheeler could bring enough over, guys, to kill everyone. And now they're mixing it with everything else to kill you. But they're going to fuss because it may come to their side of the border. I've got a video for you at the end of this. I'm going to tag in there and you can watch it. So I'm not sure if it was yesterday or today, or U.S. Navy fought. Big aircraft. One of the ones that can refuel the other aircraft and fly at very high altitudes is now, and it's a camera inside the cockpit and scanning back into the people that are reading the monitors of what they're looking at. And they're flying up and down the border, and you can see, it's not a long video, about a minute, that they can scan from very high altitudes and look at people walking on the ground and buildings and vehicles moving around. What are they're right now they're gathering information. Now, in a lot of war situations, it's an information war to start out with, and then it's a grid situation where you decapitate the enemy's ability to communicate, things like that. So we not only have we talked about Chinese troops being across the border, but buying a lot of land over here too. We're not sure what's going on with that. But other organizations from other countries being in Mexico, trying to come against this nation, being paid to do it. Now what we're going to do is, I'm going to end it here, but I'm going to continue it with that video I was talking about and just let you take a look at it. But guys, a fellow was driving. He was a big rancher down in Texas. And I think he even was responsible for some land farming on both sides of the Rio Grande. But he was on the U.S. side, and his truck hit an IUD and blew up the truck and killed him here on U.S. soil. Just a farmer. So they're planning bombs, these explosives along the border. What kind of conflict are we about to see? We cannot, and being a watchman, I can say this earnestly, you can look afar, but we've been watching inside the U.S. We've been watching Europe. We've been watching Israel and Gaza. We better watch our southern border, because that could come in very quickly. I think the U.S. knows that. I think Hegseth knows that. That's why they're putting more troops there. That's why they're doing these reconnaissance and refueling flights, so someone stays in the air at all time. Do they know something is coming, kind of like what we're talking about here? Maybe not just Mexican army, but other military people coming in to try to take over the U.S., because right now they know they've lost the battle. With this current administration, it's over unless they do something drastic. But guys, here, just pay attention. Here's a video. We're watching it. You watch it. God bless every one of you. It's a heads up. Be safe.